a completely different person in some ways than you were yesterday. So the you that made whatever decisions were made when you did X, Y, or Z that you're not proud of and you're ashamed of, whatever, is not necessarily the same person you are today. So when you ask about, can you be forgiven? Well, you or the you that did that doesn't exist anymore? See, that's kind of where you have to understand. Yahweh can forgive things that you no longer, it's not you anymore. You changed, you're not that person. If you've changed, you're not that person. You know, all of us have things that we regret because of who we are now, looking at who we were then. But you gotta remember, you did what you did because of who you were then. You were not who you are now. You couldn't make a different decision because of who you were at the time. You made the decision that the you that existed at that moment made. But whenever I do a funeral, look, I say when it comes to that point where people either are gonna get up or not get up and say something, I tell everybody, whether you get up or not, it's the right decision based on where you are right at this moment. But I want you to have peace with your choice because you're not gonna get another chance. So I don't want to guilt you into getting up, but if you don't get up, I want you to go home and have peace that you at this moment, that was the right decision. And if you do get up, don't regret anything you say. Get up and do whatever it is. That's what you needed to do. Have peace with your choice. This is important that you understand. In life, you're making choices every single day, all the time. And some of those choices, later on in life, you look back at and go, what was I thinking? Well, not the way you're thinking now, but you're not the same person now as you were when you were thinking that way. But I think a lot of you think that when we get to the millennium, everything's gonna be great. It's all gonna just flow instantaneously. Everybody's just gonna come and be happy. No, we're gonna have a lot of people who have a lot of baggage that are gonna all be together, and I think we don't usually think about that. Maybe that's why we need 1,000 years. Anybody got any family members that says that, well, I'm not talking to you until hell freezes over? I mean, that may take 1,000 years, okay? They'll have a blizzard in Florida before I ever talk to you. Whatever it is, okay? Some of these things are gonna take time to heal. We don't necessarily have writers with a problem. Well, of course, we have translators who might have a problem. The writers who wrote originally, I don't think had the problem. We also do have writers like Paul, for example, that are dealing with very specific cultural issues of their time, including Hellenization and the Essene community and the way they looked at things with a very high level of asceticism. I mean, there are things that were going on. Like when Paul's flipping out at the Galatians, it's not over the Torah. It's over these other writings and other things and traditions that people were bringing in that he never taught them. But the way it's worded, you can see it being twisted by the translators and those that are trying to use it to their best advantage to focus it as being anti-Torah. Because it's usually from Paul's writings that we get those kind of things, okay? I think Angie had mentioned that, coming out of the Catholic Church and others, where they were told that, you can't understand the Bible or this or that. Well, you can understand some of it, but some of it is supposed to be gone through by a guided study. Telling people you can't understand it without help and then not giving them help, that's the problem. Telling you that you can only understand it so far on your own, that you need help, and giving you help, that's different. I've told you that you struggle because it's not meant to be fully understood by you without help. I want everybody to have a copy. I want everybody to have that information in their head, but they're still gonna need someone to guide them through understanding some of the nuances of the confusing parts. Because he spoke in parables. Yahweh says he always spoke to them in parables. You can see that in the Old Testament as well. There's a lot of things that are hinted at that are not just straight out said. And that's where you need a guided study. Prophet's like a personal trainer for spiritual things. Do you ever notice that, like, for example, maybe you're looking on TikTok or social media and you see somebody, like one of these actors or actresses, that their role requires them to be in this tremendous shape? And every one of them has a personal trainer. Do they not know how to work out? They all know how to work out. If I have you going to the gym and trained you at least a little bit, and you go consistently for a year, you know how to work out. So why do they still have trainers? Because the trainer's gonna be like, come on, one more, let's go, you can do this, right? That's what a prophet does. Prophet's not talking to people that don't know. Teachers are talking to people that don't know. You don't know, so let me teach you. Prophet says, you know, but you're not doing. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it enough. You're not doing it with the right heart. Something needs to be, come on, let's go. You can do this, right? We don't have this today because everything is technology, is ease of communication. Do you know how most of the information flowed around the world in those days? By either traveling, like shepherds rotating their cattle around and going from town to town, or by people selling wares, merchants who would travel from place to place and bring information from where they just came from. So telling the shepherds meant this word is going to get around, because these shepherds take their flocks and move them around. And as they move them around, they're interacting with people. Then they take them to market and they interact with more people. So I think this is part of that. But also there's lots of metaphors as to why would he talk to them, is because it's the metaphor that's used often throughout Scripture is the idea of a shepherd and a flock and sheep. So saying that the great shepherd was born to a bunch of shepherds has great sort of synergy there. It kind of makes sense, right? There's a logic to that. I don't want everybody to think, oh, that's a great way to get side money and be able to also work on Saturday. Let me go find a hospital to work at. No, I want you to be working in the emergency services because you have a heart to help people that are in life and death situations. It's not a side angle to get into Sabbath work, okay? So let's not do that, okay? If you actually genuinely, this is between you and the Father, right? If you genuinely have a heart to be there for people in their urgencies and emergencies, then yes, that's fine. But by the way, that's not necessarily because you're going to be working in the cafeteria or doing some of the maintenance or something. You have to be one of the medical people that's actually there doing the life or death thing. Anybody else, any of the goyim, the nations, can go do the other stuff, okay? You have to be there for the emergency, urgency stuff. So don't say you're working in admin, okay? If you're pushing papers and using a computer on Saturday, that's not what I'm talking about. Probably the biggest thing that you need to develop while you're breathing, okay, from birth to death, is something called discipline. You're not getting the forever suit if you don't have any discipline. Self-discipline. And that's what you're struggling with, is self-discipline. So you don't have a fellowship, you don't know what else to do, you're bored, your friends want you to go out Friday night to the bar, so you do. That's a discipline problem. Now, most people aren't gonna like what I say next, which is, when we don't have discipline, we demonstrate that at that moment, you're weak. So I'm not just saying, hey, Meek, you're weak. But in that moment, you are. Okay, you might be strong in other times, in other ways, but that moment is showing you to be a weak person. Because a strong person has discipline. It takes strength to do or not do the right thing, basically because it's the right thing, as opposed to I want to or not. I do it because it's the thing to do. That takes strength. There's certain fears you have as a parent about what might happen to your child in the school, especially if your child's a girl. Not as worried about my son being a son or a boy being in the schools, but boy, I'll tell you what, it was hard to feel comfortable sending my little girl into a public school. However, my little girl also knows and has said to me that she feels like she missed some things because she was homeschooled and didn't get to have the experience with interacting with other people and being in the school. And she's right, she definitely missed some things, but she also missed some things that were bad too. How do you balance that out? Sadly, I got to tell you, Edwin, it's on you. Okay, I can't really tell you what to do. Do the best you can. Now, when it comes to if you do send them to public school, you can ask the teachers and say, look, my children don't observe these things. Can they have something alternative to do when you do those things, okay? And often enough, they'll let you do that. I don't know about California, but other places they'll let you do that, okay?
All
right.
All right, thank you.